Hello, ECS. This is JoAnna Brandi, and I am so happy to finally be here at the university. What I put together for you is a series of 20-minute segments, give or take, all about positive leadership. Let me give you a little idea of who I am and what I've done. I've been in the business of customer retention and loyalty for the past 34 years. I have been a happiness coach, trained by Dr. Seligman, the founding father of positive psychology, for 20 years. I have been certified as a chief happiness officer for the past 5 years and just recently got certified as a chief well-being officer, which thrilled me no end. Because the longer I'm in the business world, the more I realize that part of our responsibility in running business is to make sure that the well-being of our people and our customers. So what I'm going to be presenting here is something I call return on happiness, linking positivity and profitability at work. In total, it's about 3 or 4 hours worth of work. I'm going to separate this into 20-minute chunks for you. I'm going to start it the same way I would if we were in person, by asking you a question or two. And so you might want to get a piece of paper and a pen to jot a few things down. I've spent most of my career inside, besides on stage, inside other companies, helping them create a better environment for exquisite customer care. Because we know when you have exquisite customer care and loyalty, you are most definitely more profitable. In fact, an increase of only 5% more in your loyal and profitable clients could cause 60 to 80 to 125% more to drop to your bottom line. Of course, that's more depending on whether or not it's a fixed cost or variable cost. But those of you who have looked at those numbers, and by the way, I'm going to tell you that most people don't look at those numbers. Those of you who have looked at those numbers will find out that even a small uptick in your loyalty makes a big difference on your bottom line. A small increase in the loyalty of your people to your company so that you're not losing them to the competition also causes an uptick in the bottom line. So this program is a very holistic program because I'm that kind of person. I like to look at the whole of things. It encompasses a lot of positive psychology. It encompasses a lot of practical wisdom that just comes from being inside companies, trying to help them create a better environment for their people and their customers. There's one thing that stood out in what I call my yellow pad interviews, because I still walk around with a yellow pad. As I was talking to people about why they couldn't do things, why customer service wasn't the way it needed to be, and things like that, there's one thing that I heard over and over again through the years, almost to the word. People would say to me about their management, how come they never notice when I'm doing something right? But when I'm doing something wrong, they're all over me. Wow. And sometimes they add on to that in public, all over me in public. That made me cringe every time I heard it. And after a number of years, I said, wow, it's amazing how I'm hearing the same phrase over and over again with the feeling of frustration that come from the people. My experience working with CEOs, I've been working with CEOs for 26 years. I am a speaking resource for Vistage International, the world's largest CEO peer-to-peer group organization. My experience with CEOs tells me that they're afraid to give too much praise. They're afraid to give too much praise. And you'll learn in this presentation why it is so important. And I'm not just talking about praise, you did a good job, Sally, that kind of a thing. I'm talking about very specific feedback and appreciation. And you'll be excited to know that I've got examples all over the place that will help you learn to do more of that. So the way that I have this structured is very much the same way when I do this in a 3 or 4 hour format. And so I'd say grab a piece of paper, get ready to write stuff down. Relax, have a good time. Take a deep breath here and there. I'm a big one at taking a breather. At my age, I don't talk about taking a break. I talk about taking breathers because I know that when you take a deep breath, it clears your brain, opens up the slate, gives you the opportunity to take in more new information. So here, we're going to start. And I'll tell you more about me as we go along. So, as if I was sitting in the room with you, I want you to finish this sentence. When people complete an interaction with me, I want them to walk away feeling. When people complete an interaction with me, I want them to walk away feeling. I want them to walk away feeling excited. I want them to walk away feeling energized. I want them to walk away feeling expanded. How do you want them to feel? Appreciated? Cared about? Heard? I'm not going to give you too many suggestions, but I am going to suggest that when you write down those words, you don't put down phrases like they were appreciated, or like they were heard. I find that when people use the like they're actually taking one step back from the emotion. And it's important to understand how to create that specific emotion in people. So you'll have to tell me how I do after you finish the series. Do you feel excited? Do you feel energized? Do you feel expanded? Do you feel illuminated? I love these kinds of words. Do you feel enchanted? It's important that we bring emotion into our relationships with our customers and our employees. 34 years in business, and I got to tell you, the toughest part of it has been this, the F word. I talk about the F word in business. And when I first started, nobody wanted to hear about the F word in business. Thank God things are changing. What's the F word in business? Feelings. Feelings, feelings, feelings. How many meetings do we have where we say the topic of today's meeting is feelings? Emotions have been a dirty word in business for a long time, but emotions are what cause people to come back and buy again. Emotions are what cause employees to want to stay and give you their all. Emotions are what employees want to feel, good emotions. And when they do that, you are building a big, deep, gorgeous emotional bank account, which causes the employee to want to go the extra mile and give you that discretionary behavior we all need from our people. So buckle up. We're about to talk about the F word in business. Let's talk about it first in context for the customer experience. Now, when I use the word customer, please understand I'm talking about both your customers, your external customers, the people who buy stuff from you, and your internal customers, the people who run your company. Years ago, I had a drawing made, which unfortunately I can't find now, where I flipped the corporate pyramid and put the CEO at the bottom and put the customers at the top and put the employees in the middle, but the CEO was holding up the whole thing. I think I'll get somebody to draw that for me again, because I think it's a really good way to see what the role of an executive is, not just a CEO, but any manager. So the customer experience is the sum total of the feelings that are evoked as a result of any interaction at any touch point in the organization. Think about that for a moment. How many touch points do you have in the organization? And we know when customers are happy, they buy more and bring friends, and that brings you more money, and you understand that. But the hard part is that that experience is based on their perception of the value you deliver, whether it's tangible or intangible. The perception of the value you deliver, which is part of their expectations. So already we're involved with emotion. Customers have two sets of needs. They have business needs: rational, logical, practical, tangible. They need paper. They need a machine. They need a business process. They need your help in figuring out a procedure to get something done. They need imaging. There's a business need. They come to you. We always come with a business need. And if you have a good reputation, if you can give them what you need, if you have a good price, if you're centrally located, if you're able to deliver on time, all of those things are part of the business needs. They're very rational. But once that person becomes your customer, wow, those emotional needs kick in. The need to feel what? What's running around in your head right now? The need to feel important. The need to feel appreciated. The need to feel heard. Think about it. What do your customers need? Remember, internal and external. Your internal customers might need to be challenged without you pushing them off the ledge. Your customers want to feel. I'm asking you to write down some of these things. I maintain lists of them because every time I do this in person, I create a flip chart page. And every time I create a flip chart page, I take a picture of it. Your customers need to feel. Make sure you have a pretty complete list there. And when you leave this presentation, go ask a few people, how do our customers need to feel? Do they need to feel content? Do they need to feel special? I think that's the one that most people don't get. And a lot of people don't get that customers need to feel appreciated. The great American psychologist William James said, there's one big human need, and that's the need to feel appreciated. So are you appreciating your people enough? Are you appreciating your customers enough? Remember, there are two sets of needs. It's those personal and emotional needs that are going to determine whether or not they stay with you. So let me give you a little bit of background, since many of you are business owners. I was the director of direct marketing at a publishing company in New York. Basically, I rented mailing lists to people who wanted to do mailings. I was in the OEM world, so I had to learn a lot about capacitors and things like that. I didn't know the OEM world before I got there, so I had my own language that I developed, and a potential client would call and I would say, is that a gazinta? And it would always make them laugh. And they said, what's a gazinta? I said, a thing that gazinta, a thing. And we laughed together because back in those days, direct marketing really wasn't being used very much in the OEM field. I think the OEM field felt above it. And back in those days, direct marketing was considered mail order and had a bad name. So my job was not only to get them to rent my mailing list, but to dispel the negative image that selling through the mail had. I created one of the first direct marketing guides to help my people understand more about it. Got a really funny story about that. When I meet you at the conference next year, ask me about that funny story. I nearly got arrested when I did that. So yeah, long story. But I started thinking early on, what am I here to do? My former boss used to call me up about every 4 weeks and say, what do you do? And it took him 2 years before he said, now you know what you do. Because in the beginning, I was scrambling to understand what I did well. I was trying to create an integrated marketing experience for my clients. So they were doing some direct marketing, they were doing some direct selling, they were doing some space advertising. It took me a long time. I really got clear about what I did because I called some of my former customers and I had the wisdom, I guess, to say, what do I do well? And what they told me that what I did well in my industry was to take good care of my customers. And that if I could teach people that, rather than trying to integrate their marketing, I would be successful. And after I heard that for the 5th or 6th time, I started feeling that there was some truth in that. So I started thinking about what it would be like to teach people about customer care. And one day I was sitting very quietly. I don't know if I was meditating or just sitting still. And I got this image. And the image was that of a tripod, 3 legs. And on top of the tripod sits your business. Now, what happens when the three legs of the tripod are not balanced? Business is not balanced, right? So as I thought about this, I began to realize that each leg of the tripod represented a different set of relationships. So we have external relationships. That's with our customers and our suppliers and our community and our industry, and in your case, with ECS. Then we have internal relationships, and those are the relationships we have inside the company, employee to employee, boss to employee, etc. Then we have this other relationship that's really important to keeping that business balanced, and that's the inner relationship. And the inner relationship is the one that determines whether or not your employees get up in the morning and say, yes, I get to go to work today. Or, oh shit, I have to go to work. See the difference? See the difference in the energy? See the difference in the participation? When your employees get up in the morning with the intention to create value, your business booms. How do I create value today? Is the question you want them asking. That's a question you can ask yourself every single day. How am I going to create value today? How am I going to create value for my people? How am I going to create value for my customers? How am I going to create value for my industry today? It's that inner relationship that drives all those other relationships. I call this the working relationship tripod. And what it forms is an ecosystem. And what that ecosystem is your culture. I do a lot of work at the cultural level of an organization because that's what feeds this. Now we know, because studies are being done all the time now, it's wonderful, that happy people produce more. And 9 out of 10 people report being more productive just being in the presence of positive people. A meta-analysis that was done of 225 studies found that 31% higher productivity in positive people, 37% higher sales, and now we know 3 to 10 times more creative, not just 3 times more creative, but 3 to 10 times more creative, because when someone is in the experience of positive emotion, the right hemisphere of the brain and the left hemisphere of the brain begin communicating better together, and we broaden our response. That's the work of another one of my teachers, Dr. Barbara Fredrickson from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. It's called the broaden and build response. So when your people are happy, when your people are engaged, when your people are having a great experience, they are going to be more productive. And in research studies, we see 300 to 400% more innovation. And the happiest places to work tells us that people who are happy at work are 45% more adaptable. As I get into the science, and I will be getting into the science, you'll understand that that comes from the chemicals that are produced when we're happy. One of them makes us more adaptable. They're 44% more engaged, and they're less likely to leave you, lower attrition when you have happy people, because they enjoy coming to work and they like being there. Happy people have 65% more energy than unhappy ones. So we know we have higher retention, we have lower burnout, we have more effort, we have faster innovation, we have high trust, we retain our people, and people are 6 times more likely to recommend you. But the chart is what I love here. The 100 best companies to work for beat the market by a factor of 3.36. So it is critically important, if you want to stand out, that you do something different in your culture. I call it a positive spillover culture, because when you create it, it spills over. It spills over out into your community. It spills over out into the families of the people that work for you. It spills over right into your industry. But 67% of your success is going to depend on your EQ, not your IQ. Your emotional intelligence. Ooh, big words. Your emotional intelligence. 67%, 2/3 of your success in creating that kind of culture is going to depend on your EQ, not your IQ. And on top of that, leaders' emotions are magnified. So you may be in a just moderately grumpy mood, but your employees may perceive something very, very different. I learned this early on as a leader. Actually, my young daughter at the time really brought it to my attention that people looked up to me. I was trying to be friends with everybody. My early years were not very successful as a leader because we know as leaders we can't be friends with everybody. We can be in relationship with people. We can't be everybody's friend because at some time there's going to be a disciplinary action that has to take place or some feedback that has to be given that's difficult. So I think we have to remember that we need to first understand our own emotions, and we will get into emotional intelligence a little bit in this course. It's a very exciting new field, actually, to understand emotional intelligence, and it makes all relationships in our life better. Just a short word for just a short little thing for the other side of what goes on. If you don't have emotional intelligence in your organization, it's likely that incivility or toxicity could build in. There's a lot of burnout right now. And what happens when people get incivil to one another, or when a department, maybe not a whole organization, but a department creates a toxic environment, people are going to intentionally decrease their work ethic or their effort. They're going to decrease their quality. They don't care. They don't care. They don't feel good about being there. They don't care. They spend a lot of your time and money on worrying. And of course, it damages relationships and performance declines. I hesitate to show a slide like this in an industry like yours, but what I can tell you is that it doesn't have to be an organization that's toxic. It can be a department that's toxic. So keep your eyes out for signs of that toxicity, because what that is doing is it's burning out people. We have these unalienable rights in this country of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But I studied with a cross-cultural anthropologist by the name of Angelise Arian for many, many years, up until the time she died. And she said to me when I started studying this, JoAnna, in Thomas Jefferson's day, the word pursuit actually meant practice. So maybe what they were telling us is that we're not supposed to be chasing after happiness, but we're supposed to be practicing it. So happiness is a practice. It's a process and not a place. It's a habit, and a really good one. It's a skill that you can learn. It's a work ethic. And boy, as time goes on and you learn more about me, you're going to see how come I call it a work ethic, because for me it is. It's a choice that actually physically changes your brain because of the neuroplasticity in your brain. It's like a muscle you exercise. It's not any different than a bicep curl. It doesn't just feel good, it's good for you. It's being called the new productivity. Happiness at work is being called the new productivity. It also is, I think, the best competitive business strategy you can have because it's really hard to duplicate. Happiness can also be measured as a KPI. It's evidence-based. If you treasure it, measure it. Very quickly, and then we'll move on. The 8 components of happiness at work are engagement, healthy engagement, autonomy and control, purpose, pleasure, inner recognition, good experiences at work, social support, and time for growth. And if you're not doing something about this, Gallup's saying you're leaving money on the table. When you have high well-being, you have happier customers, lower healthcare costs, fewer defects, fewer accidents, less absenteeism, less turnover, and yay, more innovation. Over to $600 billion and plus are lost in productivity in places that don't encourage well-being at work. My work is going to come primarily from the field of positive psychology and neuroscience. It's called the science of happiness, the science of high performance, and I love this one, the science of thrival. So I'm going to teach you how to create a flourishing environment at work. That's all we have for today because I want to keep this to kind of 20 minutes. I am JoAnna Brandi. You can find me at returnonhappiness.com. You can call me at the office at 561-279-0027. As time goes on with these, I'll probably develop some free offers for you and things like that. But for now, a short email would be lovely to just say you enjoyed that. The next section will take you a little bit deeper into happiness at work. I appreciate you listening. Have a wonderful day.